Okay, so I'm going to talk about the CMS that is behind our website, our conference website called PySer, and what brought us there and what problems we had that we needed to solve. So this is a little bit about me. My name is Goran Mekić. I go by Meka on a daily basis. I'm a PySer co-organizer. I'm a Tilda co-founder, web dev by day and a hacker by night. And I really like automation. That means that even this machine has Ansible rules that are published on GitHub. And I really hate working. That's probably not the single unique quality, but yeah, I really like when things work without me, up to a point, right? So we started with a start kit that is like a minimal set of stuff, pages, packages, and all the stuff you need. They're minimal on the start kit, and we have well, 3 start kits. One is for the front end, and it's React and MobX. One is for the back end, which is Flask and Python, of course, and PV for the SQL database. One is to like a Lord of the Rings to bind them all, and DevOps repository, which well starts your backend, front end, configures them to see each other and stuff like that. And yeah, I said it's PV and SQL in the backend, but it's really easily exchangeable for example, MongoDB. MongoDB is in OneLove. You heard about OneLove previously. So we know the start kit is flexible enough to fulfill all our needs, and one of the needs is for teaching. In Tilda Center we have a teaching course, a web development course, which is based on this start kit, something in the front end and a lot of Python in the back end. And that start kit is actually pretty well tested in real world scenarios, in real-world projects. So OneLove is already mentioned. PySer is what I'm going to talk about right here. Tilda Learning Management System is something we're building for our hackerspace. What we want to offer is free education for everyone. So if you have a, I don't know, laptop and internet access, you can go to the website and get whatever course we have there. Right now, that LMS is not written completely, and it's only our first year that we went the whole circle with the course, so we have at least one course that is complete, but we do plan other courses like system administration, a little bit of network, a little bit of DevOps, and whatever DevOps is today. There are some private projects. I use this start kit for several companies I worked with when I started as either consultant or developer. I offered my start kit as something that is tested at least somewhere, and you may say that I could have started with Django, and actually we did, but I'm gonna get to that later. So the features of CMS of StartKit, and well, CMS being based on it, on a CMS also, is that it's pretty fast, which is probably the feature of every single page application. We are just tossing back and forth the JSON, which is really small compared to the whole web application, whole web page for the traditional web applications. It's nice looking. I mean, given that I'm originally system administrator, if I create something nice, that's really extraordinary event. I don't care about niceness, I care about functionality. It has a pretty modern stack consisting of Flask REST Plus on the backend that does all the REST API stuff, and MobX and React that do the front end. MobX mostly for integrating the backend into the backend knowledge, the knowledge that is returned from the backend in a response. It's saved in a MobX. And as I said, I'm a system administrator mostly, so I really care about security. And there are a few of the conferences that I visited. One of them is in Banja Luka, where I learned why my code is not perfect security-wise, and I actually visited quite a few of them that taught me what's wrong with my code. Currently, either everything is perfect or I don't know enough, but I can't tell you anything security-wise that is wrong with it. Later on, we plan to test it properly as not just, hey, I know these procedures are more secure than some other set of procedures. We want to do the test in the proper penetration test, automated if possible. So on top of that, StartKit, we have three main parts of the CMS. One is for managing the human entities called admins, volunteers, and presenters. One is events and talks, and the third one is gallery and presentations. So let me start from the bottom because it's most technical and easiest to explain. Gallery and presentations are technically only files. So what we do for that is we manage files somehow. Currently it's just a plain directory, but we are slowly switching to something more like S3 from Amazon. Minio is at the top of the list to be tested, but we'll see what are there any other implementations and how do they work, and if we compare them, what do they bring to us personally. Events and talks. Event is like a annual happening, gathering. It doesn't have to be annual, but currently it is. What we want to do with events in the future is name them by, I don't know, come up with some names so they are not bound to the year. So you can have, if you have a event that is bi-yearly, you can still manage it with this software. And the talks are, well, basically all of us are here for the talks, so it's the heart of the LMS, of CMS, sorry. It's when you look at the schedule, when you get call for papers when you're dealing with who is gonna be where, when are the breaks, and so on. So the heart of the CMS is actually in the talks, and there are different people with different access levels to the parts of the site to manage, so admins, volunteers, and presenters. And we really try different stacks, not on the PySer CMS per se, but on a start kit. And we had started with Django and Angular. Then we realized that for some parts, some applications, MongoDB is more suitable. So we switched to Flask, MongoDB, and React. All of that stayed just, we don't like to think that there are more MongoDB than SQL. I think that there's more SQL. That's why the start kit is predominantly SQL based, but it's really easy to switch, and maybe in the future it will get like pip install brackets no SQL kind of switch. Tilde Center as a hackerspace implemented the whole code. I'm the lead developer on the project, but there are some parts of the CMS that were borrowed from our other projects, like Tilde Center website, because I didn't feel that I need to implement blog posts all over again. So this code, although it's quite new, the parts of that code are quite older and a bit more tested. And it's open source. Maybe most of you think about GPL when they say open source. I come from BSD world, so we kind of respect companies and company code. With a BSD license, you don't have to write a GPL open source code at all, but it would be nice if you inherit something open source, just leave it like that. In the future, well, the future is always bright. There is the most asked for feature is a local payment system where you could pay to, if you live in Serbia, you can pay to a Serbian bank and you magically get your ticket either when you log in next time or you get an email with a PDF. The technical stuff is easy, generating the QR code or getting the name, email, everything is quite easy. The bank thingy, and we'll see. I will probably stand here next year telling you, hey, we did this way. So ideally, if you need for a conference in your own town, you would be able to use this. As I said before, only directories are used to store the files, and it's really not optimal if we ever try to scale, and I hope we will need to scale next year. We need something that stores file more efficiently, and MiniIO has a S3-like object, files like object store, while it also can be a device to be mounted somewhere. So ideally you would upload to MiniIO and it would be mounted by your load balancer and serving static files without interacting with the backend. Currently our CMS is really bound to what we need, we as a PySer, and colors and views and themes and all of that is not changeable unless you do the development and then you build your own front end, for example. And there are a lot of course, that's going to change in the next version now that we know how we want it to look. And what we are going to add is a possibility that more fields on, let's say, a landing page are editable so that you can edit CMS for your own custom needs without actually fiddling with the code, which can be tricky. I mean, it depends. Maybe you're organizing IT conference, so it shouldn't be hard for you, but there is if we ever get a proper API from any bank in Serbia, I hope we will have this local payment system. And not so hard thing to do is, once you have the backend, is to write the check-in app. You saw the one example of it at the entrance. The hard part is that nobody until the center does any Android development except you, for example, for a little bit. So we have a lot of learning to do and a new teacher. We have a lot of pen testing ahead of us. As I said, I really value security, and there are some stuff that we didn't do. We didn't try to overflow anything or stuff like that. We did try to give our best to implement it with best practices in mind. Just there are no automated tests at this point, and that's gonna change well tomorrow. And there's stuff in the even in the start kit that I know that they won't be there tomorrow or in the future. Like there are better API libraries for REST than what we currently use. There are better ways to marshal, how it's called, marshal the fields so that you filter properties of an object into JSON and so on. So in the front end, yeah, there's also a bunch of libraries that we want to update or replace, but on this conference, who cares about front end, right? So what we had, yeah, I didn't say why we started all this. We checked the alternatives and we kind of didn't like them. First visually, then if you limit yourself to Python-based ones, then the choice is even smaller. And we said we don't want anything except Python. I mean, we are Python Serbia, so it would be embarrassing to run anything about but that language. So we said, okay, we have these courses based on Python. We have the start kit that is based on Python and something else. And we have everything in place. We have the people, the knowledge, the libraries, frameworks, everything. So let's create it. And we doubled that thought for a while. We shuffled it, and maybe we don't have to do that, and then we came to the local payment system, and no, nobody did that, especially not in Python, so we have to. Hopefully we are offering something more than just the CMS to the community with LMS I promised, with some other applications that are still cooking in our heads that we're going to talk about probably next year or some of the next conferences. And what I'm trying to say is that PySer as a CMS is just the top of the iceberg of the software we are writing or software set that we're trying to create. And stay tuned for other implementations of interesting services. So if you have any questions, now is the time. I don't bite, I promise. Jel ti montiran drugi?
Test? Okay, it's fixed. So you mentioned for static file serving images and stuff, you want to use Minio, right? And upload files to somewhere and then serve them statically without interacting with the software. Did I understand it correctly?
Yeah.
Cool. How do you plan to solve access rights to those files without interacting with software and permission management admin volunteers and presenters, speakers, whatever, if you are not interacting with the software?
Well, first, I don't know. The honest answer is I don't know, because we have to evaluate the software, how it works and how we want it to work. And at the top of my head, well, almost all content on PySer is public anyway, so we don't care. But let's say that you uploaded a file that is presentation but shouldn't be available right now. Maybe some bucket to bucket copy, so we have a private one and a public one, but I don't know. Once we do the research, I'll know more. There was a question there.
You said you used Django at first. What other web frameworks have you tested, maybe? And why Flask in particular?
I didn't. So my slope was I learned Django because I had to. I had a band and it needed a site, and nobody in the band did web development at that time. So I had to learn Django, but later on I realized if you need MongoDB or any NoSQL, it's a real hassle with Django. Then we switched to Flask and just remained there, and until it shows some, how to say, obstacles, it's cool. Maybe in the future something that is more async IO. I know that there is a pyramid and web something. Yeah. So yeah, I know there are other solutions out there. We were just too happy with the current Flask setup that we didn't actually test anymore.
Okay, so I was just wondering, what are you serving Flask with? Like, is it Gunicorn or?
Yeah, it's Gunicorn. What I didn't mention, the one that binds them all, the DevOps repository, is one that actually has all these little pieces that you don't need for programming. Gunicorn script is one of them, and all the scripts for development are POSIX compliant shell scripts that don't work on Mac currently. I know why, because Mac doesn't have a read line implemented the way we need it. There is a workaround. Just for the past 2 months I didn't have a time. I was preparing something else. So Yeah, to give a little bit more answer, the whole script set is you can run it anywhere. We tried it on Windows, it does run. I run it on FreeBSD. Most of the hackerspace runs it on, I don't know, Fedora and Debian, and we're really trying to be as supportive of other operating system we don't like as possible. Okay, anything else? Then that would be all. Thank you very much.